DC, welcome into the Blitz. How you doing, man?
Doing great, Martin. How are you this morning?
Doing well. Hey, I got a lot of conversation for you, but before we get into that, Gregory wanted to comment on something. I'd ask the question, is this Clemson team potentially overrated? And Gregory wanted to talk to us about that. Gregory, you in with the Blitz. What's on your mind?
Roll Tide, Martin. Hey, how you doing, DC?
Doing good, Gregory.
All right, man. Bill, we had a conversation, Clemson overrated. I said no, because, this our fourth year playing against them. Now, anytime a team coaching staff, play against an opponent them in time and back-to-back years, I think it's going to be a one exciting game. Everybody know what I'm trying to say. And when Martin played the game, it's just like playing against Auburn. You're gonna get a pair for these type of games. You know what I'm saying? Each opponent, each player, you expect your game, the guys that, y'all count on to make the yards and stuff, y'all count on them. You know what I'm saying? But my thing is, I got a feeling we might need Jada. Cause that defense, Martin, I keep on telling you, just do the research.
I'm listening to you.
Okay, what tools struggle on in a team that got a great defense? LSU, Georgia, what was Florida down?
Mississippi State.
You know what I'm saying? Let's just break it down. We break everything down, but we ain't looking at that.
Now, do you think he struggled because they were good or because he was injured and they were good?
Martin, I think we're going too far with that injury stuff.
I'm asking you. I'm asking. I'm asking you.
I'm gonna give you the honest opinion. They were good. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But they were one-sided. Only somebody won one side was Georgia. Georgia took us all the way down through that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like you said, I want to talk about Georgia so bad, especially against what's his name, but I know I ain't got time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But DC, you come in on this, and Martin, when you play a team like that, like a rivalry team, you know what I'm saying? Over here, you can throw. I don't think you're looking for your game makers to make the explosive plays or try to keep up with the game.
Yeah.
With your opponent. You know what I'm saying? There ain't no more drilling and more now, gentlemen. You know what I'm saying? East Coast know everything that East Coast got. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, they know each other. So
right.
Hey, listen, I'm not saying it's not going to be a good game. I'm just saying, I guess, Greg, before I let you go, do you have a score?
Oh yeah.
What's your score?
I'm going with 48. Bama. Oh man, this is gonna be great. I had to be honest with you. I think it's gonna be another close game.
Okay.
30. Probably I say 37.
37. And how many yards you think Trevor Lawrence is gonna have? And we'll let you go.
Woo, Lord. Well, I say when is it coming down with that? I give him. I say 315.
315. All right, Thanks, Gregory. Appreciate you.
All right,
thanks. All right, DC. Gregory giving us his insight, saying he don't think this team's overrated. I'll just start with that. What are your feelings on this particular Clemson team as far as this season in and of itself? What do we know about it, and in comparison to the previous Clemson teams that Alabama's faced in the national championship?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that Clemson is a good team. I think the final two teams, Alabama and Clemson, are the best teams in college football this year, and I think that Clemson has a good team. Now, saying that doesn't mean that I think that Clemson is better than they were in years past. I think that this is probably not the best defensive team that Clemson has had, and I don't think it's the best offensive team that Clemson has had that we faced. Simply because Deshaun Watson made it a different team when he was a quarterback, and I know everybody is high on Trevor Lawrence. He's a great young quarterback and a great young man of character. But I just think Deshaun Watson brings a better or different type of offensive set that Alabama has to face and prepare for. And I just think that this is not as good an offensive team we've faced in the past. The defensive team is no doubt good, and I respect the caller's opinion on that. But I also have to look at facts, and I believe in digging deep to look at some of the facts. If you look at this Clemson defensive team, they're high in defensive stats. But, you've heard of a team being good, looking good on paper, and then when you play the game, it's completely different. I think that's going to be something that we see in this. We're going to, at the end of this game, we're going to look back and think, Clemson's defense looked really great on paper, but Alabama's offense matches up really good against this Clemson defense. And you don't have to look any further than all the games they played this year. One of your callers mentioned earlier the Kelly Mond game early in the year, and then the Jake Bentley game later in the year. Both of those gave up big passing yards. But what he didn't mention was in between those games there was 8 other games that Clemson played, and they have high statistics defensively. In those 8 games, they were all against offenses in the bottom 100 of the offenses in the college football. So, you can have great stats against teams that aren't as good offensively, and it really looks good on paper. I think Alabama has stacked up greatly in this game. I think they can take advantage of the secondary, which I think is the weak link in this Clemson defense. And I think they're going to miss Dexter Lawrence. I think he is a big part of the defensive line that's going to be missed in this game.
And I agree with you on all of those points. And I find it interesting. In the same breath, people will say, well, Clemson really didn't miss Dexter Lawrence because guys stepped up. And then in the next breath, they go, but they did play Notre Dame. It can't be both. Either Notre Dame wasn't that good, therefore it wouldn't have mattered if Dexter Lawrence played or not, or Dexter Lawrence being out didn't matter and Notre Dame was a good team. You know what I mean? So I think that Dexter Lawrence being out, the guys, you miss a first rounder. I don't care how good you are, you still miss a first rounder who is what he brings to this team. He is a run stopper up the middle. He weighs 340 pounds, and you have to double team him. Now, this Huggins kid, I think he's good, but I don't think he requires a double team the way Dexter Lawrence does, which frees up your blocking schemes for the running game and allows you to do some different things. So going into this game last week, we talked a lot about Alabama having to having the option of running or passing, and they kind of did both. First half, they had a really good attack. Second half, they decided to just run the ball pretty much at will. What do you see Alabama as far as the game plan overall? Will it be a run game incorporated, or will we just kind of lean on the pass as we've done in some of our previous games?
Well, I think this game sets up well for our passing game. So as in the last game, I think we were right on. Alabama against Oklahoma ran the ball to set up the pass, especially on those RPOs. So I look for Clemson to try to take away some of those slant passes that we've been so successfully on the RPOs. So I think that we're going to come out, and I think Coach Locke is going to start calling some pass plays to take advantage of the secondary of Clemson. That doesn't mean we abandon the run. I think we always have a good balanced attack. We're going to be able to run the ball as well. But I do think we're going to concentrate more early on in the passing game to test those defensive backs.
DC, when you look at James Griffin commenting on Facebook, and I'll kind of toss this question up to you. We were talking about Trevor Lawrence, and we were talking to him about him in prior conversations, and he's not as elusive as Murray, but he didn't have to be that type of scrambler. But do you feel like he's shown enough escapability that he can hurt Alabama, not necessarily with his legs to run, but with his leg to extend plays and get the ball down the field? Or do you think this Alabama's defense will be able to kind of corral him and force him to pass it from the pocket?
Well, I think Alabama will be able to force him to pass in the pocket simply because I don't think he's quick as some of the football quarterbacks that Alabama has faced. They just came off a game where they're facing probably the fastest quarterback they've ever had to chase, and he extended plays with his legs. I think Trevor Lawrence can run the ball, no doubt, and I think he has speed. But there's a difference between elusiveness and quickness and speed. And so I think Alabama has the speed to corral him and keep him contained in the pocket. They just came off a game where they chased around a greased pig. I mean, there's no way to catch him.
You're right.
He got away from him. His elusiveness, his quickness, his ability to get away. I mean, that was amazing what Kyler Murray was able to do in that second half. I don't think Trevor Lawrence has that type of game. I think he relies on his arm strength, and I think he has a great arm strength. When he can place the ball, when he has time in the pocket, he can put the ball in very tight spaces with very good velocity, and he has a good accuracy. But if you look back, when he is pressured, I think he is has a quarterback rating in the 23 range when he's pressured. So I believe Alabama puts the pressure on him, keeps him in the pocket, contains him. Now, the health of Christian Miller may have something to do with that.
Right.
But I really believe that, Jamie Mosley will be able to step up. He's a fifth-year senior, played a long time in that position. And I believe at certain times when normally you would see Dylan Moses go out and we'd be in a different package where he'd be out, I think he'll slide over and play that outside linebacker. With Dylan Moses' speed, I don't think he have a problem with keeping Trevor Lawrence in the pocket.
All right, we're going to continue that Trevor Lawrence conversation because you mentioned something about when he's pressured. We're going to talk about the difference. Does Alabama have to sack this guy, or do we just have to generate pressure? We're going to talk about that and more, and we'll continue to look into this Alabama versus Clemson matchup with DC Capstone Report. You can find it at dccapstonereport.com right here on the Blitz on Tide 102.9 and 100.9. All right, DC, as we were going to break, we were talking about Trevor Lawrence. We were talking about this matchup. And sometimes it's not don't get me wrong, I think Clemson is the second best team, okay, in the country. But does that mean that it equates to as close a game as last week? Because just because you're the second best team, sometimes matchups matter. And the matchup in this game that I want to point out is Brad Edwards. We had some audio yesterday. Brad Edwards said that Trevor Lawrence is the 112th ranked quarterback in efficiency in the country when you get pressure without blitzing. And Alabama is number 1 in the country at bringing pressure without blitzing. Boom, matchup. Let's talk about that matchup, and then we have one from the offensive side of the ball that I think we can talk about as well. But that matchup in terms of Alabama's defensive line against Trevor Lawrence and what he does, what impact does that have on this particular game?
Well, I think it has a huge impact on this game, and it had an impact in the last game. Alabama's front defensive line did a great job against that great offensive line of Oklahoma. I think they do even a better job against the offensive line of Clemson. If Oklahoma doesn't hold Quinnion Williams on every play,
every play,
if they don't hold him on every play, then he gets in the backfield every time. At one point, Martin, I saw the center had him around the arms and the guard had him around the legs, and he still got in and put his hand on the shoulder of the running back taking the handoff. So I think Quinnion Williams is the difference maker on that line, but don't look past Isaiah Buggs and Raekwon Davis in this game, because I think that the combination of all three of them puts a lot of pressure to get things blocked up the middle, and therefore Anthony Jennings and Jamie Mosley, Christian Miller if he plays, we have an opportunity, Dylan Moses, to make some plays on the outside linebacker position. I think all of them together puts a lot of pressure on Trevor Lawrence in this game. And I do think, I agree with the stats you threw out there. What I was looking at shows his quarterback rating drops tremendously when he's under pressure. That doesn't mean being sacked. It means pressure in the pocket. And I think Alabama's front seven puts the pressure on you without having to bring a blitzer. And I think every now and then Alabama brings a blitzer off the corner. We've seen Shyam Carter do it, David McKinney, just coming in there to keep their mind on the blitzer as well. And I think we do that as well in this game a couple of times. But I think most of the time we can get pressure with our defensive line.
Let's flip over to the other side of the ball. C.J. Watson asking you a question, DC. He says, do you think we see more of the 2 QB set? I feel like we will. We've thrown it out as a tease before. I think we'll see it a few times in this game. New tricks and things we haven't seen from it yet. What are your thoughts on the 2 quarterback set from Alabama?
Well, I think we've used it now several times, so Clemson knows that we use it. I think we got 2 great coaches here in this game, and we got some great players on either side. So, I think Alabama might use it in this game as a wrinkle. But, I think head-to-head, Alabama matches up really good in this game. And I think we're going to see us do some old bread-and-butter plays, basic running the ball and basic movement, pre-snap movement to pass the ball effectively against Clemson's defensive backfield. Now, that doesn't mean we won't see it. I just think when we see it this time, we're going to see some different things out of those that we have previously. You might see Jalen throwing the ball more, or Tua getting the ball back and throwing the ball in this game. So I think that's what we can take advantage of, the defensive back. But
yeah.
I think on offense, the player to watch in this game is Josh Jacobs. I think he has a great game.
And that DC right there was saying he believed that Josh Jacobs is a guy to play. So I'm gonna get you to get in the fourth quarter. I'm gonna get your players of the game. When we look at, DC, when we look at Alabama, once again, strength, weakness, I believe Clemson's defensive front is their strength. Okay, even without Lawrence, I still think the front 4 to 7 is the best part of their defense. And I believe that that's going to force us to pass a little bit more. The Jacobs thing, I think he may catch the ball out of the backfield as much as he touches it on the run percentage wise. But this, it's almost like Clemson's going to force us into our strength because of their play, meaning that front 7 forces us to pass the ball because we're not going to have as many running lanes. What do you think the end result of that, and what do you see Tua Tagovailoa doing? A healthy Tua Tagovailoa doing against the Clemson defense?
Well, he looked healthy to me against Oklahoma.
Right.
And you're almost perfect. I mean, goodness gracious, he was almost perfect on every throw. If you count the throw that our players called but was ruled out of bounds, and he only misses 2 passes the whole game. So I think that this game, this sets up well. As I've already said, it sets up well against their defensive backfield. But their strength, as you say, up front, pushes us to pass the ball more, and I think it passes against their weakness. So in my mind, this sets up as a great game for Alabama to take advantage and really Tua to have a good game. I wouldn't be surprised if he has one of those 400-yard passing games like Kelly Mond or Jake Bentley in this game, just because Alabama has so many wide receivers that are so good. When you talk about in Clemson game, they couldn't cover Deebo Samuel. I think he had almost 200 yards. And you talk about Texas A&M wide receivers, Alabama's wide receivers athletically across the board are better than those wide receivers overall. And so I think that Tua has just a smorgasbord of who to throw to. And so it could be a really long day for Clemson if Tua's hitting on all cylinders and everybody's catching the ball and running with the ball after the catch. So I really think it sets up well for Alabama in this game.
All right, DC, I'm going to hold you over into the fourth quarter. May even have you come back for a cameo on Monday since that's actual game day. But one question before we get in that fourth quarter and me asking you about the players of the game and what you think. Was Patrick Surtain, that has to be – I've seen a lot of people concerned with the way he played against Texas A&M. Was he victimized, or was that as much – the way they had him playing the corner, playing off, not playing bump and run, not playing aggressive, not having any help over the top? Was that as much the game plan in that second half? If we give up plays, just keep it in front of you, almost a prevent type of defense, because we forced Oklahoma into several long drives by their standards. Was that as much the game plan, or was he truly victimized in your opinion?
No, I don't think he was victimized at all. I think that he was playing his man in a way that caused the defensive back to have a disadvantage. I think in that game, he was told in the second half, just like all the backs were told, everybody on our team, don't let them get behind.
Right.
Don't let them get behind. Don't let them score on big plays. This is a big strike offense. And you saw that happen. Kyler Murray, he throws off of his – I think he was in midair. I don't think his foot was on the ground.
He wasn't. Both feet.
Yeah, both feet are in midair from the 50-yard line. His arm strength hits the guy striding in the end zone because they let him get behind him. And I think Coach Saban had drilled it in their heads, and Carl Scott drilled heads, do not let them get behind you. Well, as a freshman on that, you take that to heart. You don't let them get behind you. And in doing so, he was off his game. His game is in your face, bump and run, stop them off the line of scrimmage, mirror their foot movement. And I don't think that was what he was called on to do in that second half. So it just was a matchup. It was a player that Kyler Murray was comfortable with going to and throwing the ball to, and their guy made some great catches. Their guy made some great plays. We're talking about some good wide receiver against a good defensive back, and sometimes on those 50-50 balls, it just depends on who it gets. So I don't think he was victimized. I think it was just part of the scheme that he was asked to play in that second half.
All right, I got some numbers I'm going to read out to you as we go to break here, and then we'll talk about what those numbers are when we come back. Right here on the Blitz. 11.7, 13.5, 8.2, 10.9, 13.9, 18.4, 15.1, 13.0, 11.9, and 16.2. What do those numbers represent? We'll talk about that and more. And if these numbers show that Alabama really not appreciating one part of their team as much as they should, right here on the Blitz on Tide 102.9 and 100.9. DC, those numbers I was reading out was the defensive scoring for Nick Saban's team. This team giving up 16.2 points per game, and people are still down on this team. And it's interesting. We always say, well, Tua would have had this many yards if he had played the entire game. No one is saying that this defense gave up a huge percentage of their points other than the last two games. And like Missouri, they gave up almost as many points in the game with the backups because they weren't playing in the third quarter and the fourth quarter either. It was backup point scoring. How good is this defense, and should Alabama fans recognize this defense as one of Nick Saban's better defenses, especially considering where they started?
Oh, I think I'm very high on this defense, Martin. You've heard me from the very beginning talk about how undervalued and underestimated people are with Alabama's defense. But, if you look at the whole body of work for the entire season, and we talk about secondary, linebacker, and lineman play in this game in this season, I think overall, in my opinion, this is the best defense that Nick Saban's ever put on the field. And I think that's because I don't think there's a weak link. Everybody said earlier, the defensive back's going to be a weak link. I think the defensive backs has played a great season.
Yes.
They went up against tough competition and did it pretty good. Our linebackers have been stellar. Everybody said that was going to be a weak link because we have, so no depth there. But Mike Wilson and Dylan Moses have gone through a whole year playing great without any, really mentionable backup to come in and really give them a break in the game. They've done really well. And then when you look at our linemen with Quinn Williams, Isaiah Buggs, and Raekwon Davis with Darian Mathis and LeBron Ray coming in and spelling them, they played great. And our outside linebackers really done well. And everybody forgets about, hey, we've done so well with what we have. But what about ones that got hurt? We talked about last year's defense getting hurt. What about this year? What about Terrell Lewis and Chris Allen and Trayvon Diggs would still be in? How much even better our defense would be.
Right.
So I think this is one of the best ones, and you hit it right on the head. I think it's undervalued. I think it's underestimated. And I think to a certain extent, teams that play Alabama think that our defense is a weak link. And, I think this team is probably one of the best teams offensively and defensively that we've ever put on the field. I think the weakest link on our team is our special teams. And, you throw J.K. Scott on this team, and it might be the best team they've ever had.
Yeah. And 16.2 in today's game is the equivalent of about 3 to 7 points in the pre-offensive world. And that's the part that I try to remind people. You hold a team to 16.2 points per game, especially when your backups are playing a lot. You're playing some really solid defense. Yes, we had a couple, Oklahoma got a lot, but it was 28-0. And when the game was on the line, they absolutely shut down Kyler Murray, and there was never a threat. I know people say it seemed like it, but it was no threat. We were playing prevent on both sides of the ball to make that game get over with quick. All right, DC, when we look at this, you mentioned it. You may have already given us a a clue into your player of the game. But let's go to the offensive side first of all, real quick. Who do you have as a player of the game or a key player to watch other than Josh Jacobs? You can talk about him again if you want to.
Well, on our podcast, I put up 3 players that I think you need to watch. Of course, Tua. Again, I think we said that last game, but if he's hitting on all cylinders, comes out and playing as well, that's going to be a barometer to tell you that Alabama's in for a great game. I think the other player on offense to watch is Jerry Jeudy. I really believe that Jerry Judy's heard a lot about how much this Ross guy is, how the best wide receiver in Alabama got away and went to Clemson, how great he is. And I think Jerry Jeudy is prized for a breakout game in this game against Clemson just because I think his skill set is really good against the defensive backfield. So I look for him to have a big game. And I look for Josh Jacobs to have a big game. I mean, Josh Jacobs had one of the best games as any running back, running the ball and out of the backfield, catching the ball and blocking. Except for Tua missing him on that play, he was wide open. He'd had another touchdown for a pass. And I think he can get open out of the backfield in this game as well. So I look for him to have a huge game. So if Tua, Jerry Jeudy, and Josh Jacobs have the offensive games that I'm predicting, I think Alabama wins this game and wins it handily. All
right, you got about give me about 60 seconds on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, you don't have to look any further than Quinion Williams. Quinion Williams is going to be a difference maker in this game right up the front, right off the bat. He's been great all the time. I think Mac Wilson is another difference maker in this game, and I think Shyheim Carter is going to make a difference. I think he's going to make a difference in stopping Hunter Renfrow across the middle on those slants and those shallow crosses across the middle. So look for those 3 to have big defensive games.
All right. And then last but not least, DC, I'm going to go ahead, just in case we don't connect for that cameo on Monday. What are you thinking in terms of Alabama versus Clemson?
I think Alabama comes and gets out early like they did against Oklahoma and wins this game. I consider it a good score, 38-24. In this matchup, I don't look for our defense to give up more than 24 points in this game if we can pressure Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence gets some passing yards against our defense. I'd say he has about 250 yards passing, but I don't think it's the difference in the game. I think Alabama's defense makes the difference in the game.
All right. Hey, one last question for you as I let you go. Who's going to be missed more if Miller doesn't play? Miller for Alabama's defensive game plan or Lawrence for Clemson?
Well, I think Dexter Lawrence is going to be missed more. Just because of the bigness that he brings to stopping up that middle and having occupied 2 offensive linemen. People don't realize how key that is. I think if Alabama can block one-on-one, then they have a big game in this game against Clemson.
All right. That's DC Capstone Report. You can find them. That podcast is already up for this week at dccapstonereport.com. DC, appreciate you being a part of it. Looking forward to talking to you on next week, either pregame and postgame, or at least postgame. Thanks for all you do, being a part of the Blitz.
Thank you, Martin. You have a great day and roll tide.